Hey, what's going on YouTube? Alabama Reloader here. So, you've hopefully seen the previous video, sort of the intro, the kickoff on the 7mm-08 hunting load that we're working up here. So I went through and I deprimed everything. If you'll remember, I was using this guy right here. It's the universal decapping die from Redding. So nice little setup, nice little decapping die, worked really good. But now we're moving on to the resizing process, and I've got my Redding full length sizing die for 308 in the T7 turret press here. And if you'll recall, if you watched that first video, what we're doing is we're taking Starline 308 brass, and we're going to first resize them because they're once fired in a 308 rifle. We're going to resize them, and then from there we're going to size them down to 7mm using the Redding full length resizing die for 7mm-08. So that's how we're going to create our brass for this project. It's just been a pain trying to locate brass, track some down. And so instead of worrying about all that, we are just going to make our own and be done with it. So this is the process that we're going to follow. Essentially, since I've already deprimed them, now I'm just going to resize them down to 308. Giving them a pretty good resizing operation with this die. I've measured, I've already resized a handful, and I've measured, I'm actually pushing the shoulder back 6/1000ths, which, you know, in today's YouTube video experts, that's outrageous and that's unbelievable in today's world. You know, when you're talking of 1,000th, 2,000ths for bolt action and all that, 6/1000ths is just simply unheard of, and it's absolutely oversizing my brass. But whatever, I don't really care. 6/1000ths, 2,000ths, whatever. I just wanted to resize the brass, make contact with the shell holder on the die, make sure we had good contact, make sure we had a good resize going on our brass, so that way when we go to resize down to 7mm, we don't have that much more effort and work going into it on that process. So nothing like binding up your die. Nothing like binding up your die when you don't have to. So I'd rather do a little more work, a little more brass sizing on the front end with the 308, kind of getting it back to, I guess, closer to SAMI specs. You know, instead of having it more tightly formed or resized to the chamber that this was fired in, because it doesn't matter at this point, this is going to be fired in a completely different rifle. So, you know, bumping it 2,000ths doesn't necessarily help me. It doesn't gain me anything. You know, the advantages of doing that are going to be lost in this process. So there's really no point in kind of following that methodology. So we're just gonna resize our brass here. We're gonna go through the process and see how things work out. It's really gonna be, the test is gonna come when we go to chamber it in the rifle. We'll test the finished pieces of brass in the rifle, make sure they chamber no problem. These are all looking great. I can't imagine we would have major issues, you know, just sizing it down to 7mm. You know, we're not getting too wild here. We're not doing anything too crazy. So I can't imagine, you know, stranger things have happened, but I can't imagine having too much difficulty, you know, stepping it down that amount. So that's number 9. I've got 50 pieces over here I want to get through. I'll do these first 10, and then my plan is to load up that 7mm-08 full length die in one of these slots, switch it over and run through a few of those and see how that's turning out, because that's really our true test. So there's 10. Now what we need to do, oh here, I'll just take out this universal decapping die. Throw that over there somewhere. Now let's get our 7mm-08 sizing die. Alrighty, we are around here, and we're going to need it to go down about the same amount. Alrighty, so we got good contact there. So let's see if we get a stuck case. Alright. Would like to get some on the inside of that mouth. I just want that expander ball on this die. I don't want anything too crazy here. All right. Wow. That was just like sizing 308. I mean, that really, wow. Okay, well, that was way less resistance than I anticipated. Okay, well, you can actually see, yeah, you can see where, oh, it got sized down. I'm gonna grab my Lyman. These calipers are pretty terrible, actually. Yeah, I don't even have them. So they're zeroed close enough. Alrighty. Looks like we are in the money. Awesome. Good deal. Looks like that resizing process went about as good as it could have gone. Nice. All right. Well, there we go. So now that I know, hey, that was way easier than anticipated. So now pretty much all I want to do, yeah, we're looking at an inside diameter of 281. Yeah, we're looking at about 281 inside diameter of the mouth there. So yeah, pretty sweet. That's nice. Let's see how much. So 2.0225. I would imagine we are. I don't have those numbers handy. but I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that we're gonna have to trim this guy. I don't know the trim length off the top of my head, but I would imagine, because right now we're at 2.022 inches. I know 308 is what, 2.005. So I would guess it's in that same family. So we're gonna have to trim these. So yeah, so we'll have to trim them, but man, that went way easier than I had anticipated. So that is awesome. So there you go. That's how it's done, boys and girls. Get you some 308. If you're shooting a 7mm-08, just get you some 308 brass, like the Peterson brass I picked up at the range the other day, because somebody, they've got more money than sense. So they threw a bunch of Peterson brass, just left it out there at the range. So yeah, that's, there you go. Go buy you a bunch of 308 brass, which is a little more available. You know, you can find some once fired stuff if you want to go that route. Neck it down to 7mm, and you are in the money. So that's it, and that's all. That's really, you know, that's all we're doing on this video. It's nothing too crazy. We're using it. So we are using Redding Imperial sizing die wax. That is one thing. You know, I watched several videos before I attempted this myself, and that is one thing, you know, you generally hear when you're starting to explore wildcat, which really isn't that much of a wildcat. But when you start going down that path of using parent cases and making other cartridges from them, you definitely have to be liberal with the lube. You don't want to stick a case. You just, yeah. Trust me when I tell you, you do not want to stick a case. It's such a pain. But that's pretty awesome. So now we've got, when it's all said and done, we will have some 7mm-08 sized Starline brass made from the 308 Winchester. So that's pretty cool. So that's it, that's all. I'm sweating to death out here. Man, humidity is through the roof. Come back from the beach and it's just like, holy smokes. It's like, take me back to the beach, man. At least I had a breeze coming off the water. Now it's just you get back home, North Alabama, and there ain't a body of water anywhere close. And you're just sitting here baking, so. But I guess it could be worse. So that's it. It's looking like I'll be home next week. So I was supposed to be back out of town. I was supposed to travel again for work next week, but due to the COVID Delta variant and whatever latest and greatest news is around that, the trip got canceled. So you know, it's a blessing in disguise for sure. I'm able to stay at home for a couple weeks in a row. That's something I hadn't been able to do in a while, so that'll be nice. Plus, that should give me time to, now that I can get through this resizing process and I know that, hey, everything's good to go, then I'll be able to throw some primers in these. That's one thing we didn't really talk about, is primer selection. So I came across a brick of S&B large rifle primers over the weekend, and I think that's what we're gonna try. I think we're gonna try S&B initially, see how they do. If we have any issues at all with with the primers, or what I suspect to be any type of primer issues, we will switch to the Federal large rifle magnums. Those are the only large rifle primers I have other than the S&B large rifles. So, and mostly because I shoot a lot of small small primer stuff, like my 6.5 Creedmoor brass, a small primer. The 308 brass that I purchased from Alpha Munitions, that's small primer. I've got a good bit of CCI 450s, and I really like that primer. It does a good job, so I like shooting small primer brass. But in this case, since we're using large rifle primer stuff, we need to we'll stick with that, and we'll give SMB a shot. I've actually never tried SMB primers, but was able to come across a brick and picked them up, so we'll go with that. We'll see how those do. So, all right, well, I reckon that's where we're gonna leave it. So yeah, we're just working on getting these. I gotta work on getting these 50 resized. Right now I'm running them through the 308 full length sizing die. Then I'll come back around. Once I'm done there, I'll hit them in that 7mm-08. Now that I know, you know, it didn't require much effort at all, I probably won't need to use as much lube as I did on that first one. I can probably get away with a little bit less. So that's the route we're gonna go. I mean, I don't even think y'all can tell how shiny that stuff is. Like, that's how hot it is. I mean, this stuff is just melting right now. I mean, it's so hot in here. I'm sweating to death, but it's whatever. I don't have any airflow in this building, so that's one thing. That's one upgrade I definitely have to make at some point in time. I got to put some money into a new window unit. The window unit that's in here, it's, of course, as soon as we bought the house, and you know, that window unit just quit working, kind of crapped out on me. So I'm gonna have to put a little money into getting a new window unit, and I'd really like to put like a mini split or something out here. I'd like to kind of wall it off. There's a doorway going into like where I keep my lawnmower and stuff. I'd actually like to put a door there and have this area where I do all my reloading, have it more climate controlled, you know, do a better job sealing everything up around the doors and the windows and all that. It's just an old outbuilding, but I'd like to get this area, you know, climate controlled. I think if I do that, that would definitely be an improvement just in quality of reloader comfort, we'll say. But that's for another day. We're not there yet. We're not to the point where I'm gonna go put in a window unit and start running the air out here just yet. So that's on down the road a little bit. Not too far, but just a little bit. So, all right, well, that's where we're gonna leave it. Not much is going on. I'm just doing some brass prep, lubing the cases, resizing. Then I'll go through and lube again, resize again in the 7mm-08. From there, I will run them through the Lyman Case Prep Express, chamfer, deburr, clean the primer pockets, all of that. I'll need to trim them, so I'll trim them first, then I'll run through all those processes. And we'll be ready for primer, powder, and bullet. And so y'all will come back and see that video next. So, but that's where we're at. That's where we're gonna leave it. So, working on this little batch of brass here. So, we'll catch y'all next time. Y'all have a good one.